To all. Hello, is it audible?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good
Yes,
morning.
audible.
Yeah, welcome to you all. Our guest is going to join, so please wait for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we'll start. Hello, a very good morning to all of you. Aniruddham, Anutpadam, Anuchedam, Asaswatam, Anekartham, Ananartham, Anagamam, Anirgamam. Iha pratitya samutpadan, Prapancha pasamam sivam, Desayamasa sambuddhas, Tambande Padatambaram. So, on behalf of Department of Philosophy, Lakshminarayan Mahavidyalaya, Jamsori Baleswar, under Fakir Mahan University Baleswar, I welcome you all to this ICPR-sponsored periodic lecture on Mahayana Buddhist philosophy. Today, we have with us Professor Godabarisha Mishra. Professor Godabarisha Mishra is a well-known figure of philosophy, philosophy in India. Professor Godabarisha Mishra is presently working at Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Indian Bhubaneswar. Professor Mishra has received his PhD from the University of Madras, and his doctoral thesis was on philosophy of Upanishads and analytical exposition. He was also the head and professor of University of Madras. Professor Mishra has more than 50 research papers on classical and contemporary Indian thought and comparative philosophy published in national and international journals. His publications include Anubhuti Pratyaksha of Badrayana, and also it's from Parampara, essays in honor of R. Balasubramanian. So he has been worked with very famous professor of Indian philosophy, Professor R. Balasubramanian. He was also the chairman of ICPR and secretary of ICPR also. He has been involved in various research projects. He has many publications. He was awarded the Charles Wallace Visiting Professor at Oxford University, UK in 1995. Professor Mishra has visited British University such as Cambridge, Manchester, and King's College, London, etc. He was invited as visiting academic to teach graduate and postgraduate students at Oriental Institute and Oxford Centre for Hindu Studies, University of Oxford, UK. He has been a visiting faculty of Oxford University, UK, and also Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Mauritius. So we are have you, sir, in this session. So about Nagarjuna, we know all that the Nagarjuna is no doubt a very most important Buddhist philosopher after the historic Buddha himself. And since today also we are going to discuss about Nagarjuna, we have already listened about the basic concepts of Buddhism like Sunyata and Pratitya Samutpada and Madhyama Pratipada. These are the central concepts which almost all the philosophers have touched. And also we have seen about the history of the school, the development of the schools of Buddhism. early realistic and pluralistic phase, the Abhidharmic philosophy. Now, the Nagarjuna is propounding the critical philosophy of Buddhism. So, we'll love to listen you, sir, on the philosophy of Nagarjuna, the middle path of Nagarjuna. So, I welcome you, sir. I welcome all the audiences. Welcome all my teachers and dignitary audience from Odisha, out of Odisha. Welcome to all. Namaskar, sir. Welcome, sir. Hello.
Devasis, are you able to see the screen?
No, sir. I'm not seeing.
How to share the screen?
Sir, here is the option on the right side, present now option.
Okay,
Okay.
right side.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Will you please tell me how to share the screen? I will take a minute of yours. You are able to see me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am able to see you and also hear you. Yeah.
Where is
Then,
the option? Please tell me a little. I'm
yeah,
not that good.
yeah. There is the option present now on the right side.
Below.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
below.
project now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Click there.
Oh, your screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it? Are you able to see that?
No, sir.
Just a minute.
Hello,
Are
Dr.
you,
Arvind. Hello, Dr.
uh,
Arvind. Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
Devashish.
can you please help sir to share his screen?
So I think he is on camera and he is sharing his screen. Tell him to share the window. Is it? It's trying to share the PPT or something like that.
PPT? Yes.
Yes.
So when you are selecting present now, then don't share your screen. Go to try to share the window.
Okay. Window. Then
It will ask to select which window you are trying to share.
promote to share the contents of your screen. Choose what you want to. Just a minute. Is it okay?
No, it's not showing.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Yes,
Yes, yes.
now we can see your screen.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Are
Now,
you able to see me also?
yeah, yeah. Yes, sir.
And here also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You
Okay.
are audible,
Uh,
visible.
Sorry, Devashish, for the trouble I have given you. Uh, I hang.
But there is no PPT on the screen, sir.
Oh, PPT is not
We
there.
are not seeing any PPT on the screen. No, you are sharing your Chrome window.
1 minute. I will stop presenting, then I will come back. Window,
Okay.
window, then this one, share. Just
Select that window in which you are running the PPT.
not able to do that.
Sir, is it people? Because it was on also.
Just a minute. And then now we will do.
Please.
Is it okay now?
No, sir. No, sir. You are not saying. You are not saying
Now it will
clearly.
come. Now it will come. Has it come?
Yes, sir. It comes.
Yeah, it comes. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So are you able to see me and everything
Yes,
is
sir.
okay?
Yes, sir. Everything is okay. Your PPT also visible.
Okay. So I good morning to all of you. Sorry for the delay. Like I have taken some of your a little of your time to organize myself since we are going through a pandemic period. So it is done in this way. So friends, at the very outset, in the beginning, I thank Dr. Devashish Sarangi for inviting me to share my views on Nagarjuna and on the Buddhist tradition itself, in which Nagarjuna occupies a preeminent position. The philosophy of Nagarjuna is being summarized by himself in a particular verse in his Mula Madhyamika Karika. He says, I'll start with this, then I'll go to Buddhism because there are students and also very senior teachers and interested public. So I'll try to present before you a cue as to how to place Nagarjuna in the gamut, in the large landscape of Buddhist philosophy. So Nagarjuna himself says, Yah pratitya samutpada sunyata tam prachachmahe sa pragyaptir upadaya pratipat saiva madhyama. The upadaya word is repeated by mistake. So he says, whatever is dependent arising, I'll be speaking about dependent arising, is emptiness. Emptiness is a very challenging term, a word which has been contested in our tradition, Sunya. I'll be talking about Sunya, and I will end with the Sunya, how it has percolated down to the philosophy of the later period. So we state that whatever is dependently arising is emptiness, and that is dependent on convention. That itself is the middle path. This is a type of definition we can say Saiva Madhyama, Pratipat Saiva Madhyama. So that is the middle path that should be understood. Nagarjuna gives the definition as well as a description in this verse. And friends, before I go to deal with Nagarjuna, I must give you a background of how the philosophy has been done in India and how it is been relegated, ununderstood everywhere, including in India, because at present, and which is the main reason why people say that the Indian philosophy is no philosophy, or if it is philosophy, it is not that type of a philosophy like Western philosophy. Now, even in the West, you can see, I don't want to get into that type of problematic that which has been looming, that which had been looming, no more it is there, it is now been getting melted. So philosophical inquiry is based on man's desire to understand what is reality. The assumption being that the present way of understanding and even experiencing it is flawed, leading to ignorance and misery. This is the basic foundation on which Buddha has started his philosophization. If you see the history of philosophy, the first philosophers were or are the Upanishadic seers and the known philosophization with analysis, because Upanishads have very little analysis statements which needs or which need an analysis, and that has been given by the Bhashyakaras. But Buddha is the first so-called analytical philosopher, I should say, who has given us this particular, mode to understand this particular. He has presented us to how to understand the reality. So this elimination of desire, ignorance leads to the correct understanding of reality, and that is what great philosophers, especially in the East means in Asia. This is also common in the West. Like you can see in Plato, in modern philosophers like Heidegger, you can see this understanding of reality, and that is what great philosophers have sought to understand. This led philosophers to identify with the mysterious or mystical aspects at times and not always, and that promised an ultimate or absolute reality beyond the mundane world, or a view that denied the possibility of any understanding or release from the worldly affairs, and even an extreme indulgence in the worldly affairs, taking that to be the reality. What I have in my mind, what I wanted to exactly tell you when I am presenting this particular passage before you, is to say that we have different forms of philosophizing by which you can deny yourself from the worldly affairs, take to asceticism. I'll be talking about this, or you can have extreme indulgence in the worldly affairs, like as you have in the case of in case of Charvakas, Lokayatas, Kautilya also, a political philosopher, or you can see the other end of it in the Jainas, and so in Samkhyas, Jainas, and many other schools of philosophy. Okay, hence the philosophers that existed at the time of Gautama Siddhartha offered people extreme ways of thought and action to realize the truth or understand reality. This is what is the background. This is what is the foreground of philosophizing that Buddha has done, and that to which I want to attract your attention. That all these types of philosophies have two modes, or two. They can be divided into two ways. One, indulgence; another is renunciation. So, with that was what the extreme indulgence and extreme form of realization, renunciation, were also the modes of the philosophizing of that time. So as you know, I don't have to repeat it, is only for the students. The Buddha was a victim of such experience of extreme practices of indulgence and self-mortification, and realized that both could not lead to enlightenment. The Buddha was, as you will be, as I will be presenting before you, the Buddha was not for any ways of absolutism, skepticism, materialism, or asceticism as a means for realizing oneself. What I would like to tell you is Buddha, in doing his philosophy, is reacting to four schools which were preeminently present during his time as schools of thinking, schools of practice. So one is absolutism. Absolutism, as it is given by the Upanishads, that the self is absolute, self is eternal, eternalism you can say. You can also say that it is a type of essentialism. You can always say, but that is not the right word here. I would say that it is eternalism or skepticism of the Ajivaka. I don't have time to discuss about Ajivaka school. Buddha is reacting to Ajivaka school. So first school he is reacting to is the romanticization of the self as has happened in Upanishads, followed by the Upanishadic thinkers as we find in post-Vedic period in teachers like Shankara. So that is the eternalism, the romanticization of the self, romanticization of the experience of the self as something which is a bliss. There is the suffering is also a bliss. Is a romanticization of the of the very conspicuous suffering that the man undergoes. Buddha is addressing this, and second is skepticism of the Ajivakats. So the first is Brahminical tradition, second is Ajivaka tradition, and third is Charvakas. Charvakas bringing like everything is matter. It is only the matter which is which is what is the substract and locus of everything. That is what they say. Swabhava the Charvakas and or asceticism of the Jainas. So these are the four schools as as a means of realizing oneself. That is what was there in before the advent of the Buddha, and when Buddha came. See, Buddha is trying to do away with all the four schools. He is telling romanticization is not necessary. It is not possible because we have to address the problems. We cannot go with the problems saying that they are not problems. We are making a caricature of the things that are in front of us. We are like this gives space for some to enjoy at the cost of others. Skepticism is not the way. There must be something on like beyond skepticism. Skepticism we can start, but we cannot get cut. We can remain skeptical all the times. There must be a way out of it. The third is materialism of Charvakas, and fourth is the asceticism of the Jainas. Jainas preach and propagate. Extreme form of asceticism, and Buddha is telling asceticism is okay, but it may be necessary, but it is not sufficient for liberation. Please remember, friends, Nagarjuna. I bring Nagarjuna here. Nagarjuna, following the tradition of Buddha, says, it's only, not only, but one of the major traditions in the world which says that there is not much difference between a laity, between a layman and a religious man, because they have the same status as far as the enlightenment is concerned. This is the only tradition, I must say, only not only. This is one of the few traditions in the world. So Buddha is trying to find way between these four. He is reacting to these four, contesting the views of these four schools that were in vogue during his time. So, as you know, just to give a hint of the life of the Buddha, Buddha was born in a family of a feudal king, and he had all palatial indulgence, as you know, unconcerned about the world, and by seeing the old man decrepit with age, a man reeled with sickness, a dead body, and a saffron-robbed person with a 7-head begging bowl, with a calm and tranquil demeanor, Buddha understood the enormity of misery and suffering. Gautama started to think the ways to conquer it. That is where the genesis of Buddhism. And as you know, I am not giving a prolegomena to the philosophy of middle path. How the middle path has come into picture as far as Buddhism is concerned. So he left the palace for 6 years and practiced renunciation and asceticism. First, he had 2 teachers, the Brahminical teachers, whom he thought as the so-called citadel of philosophy. They are philosophers, those who are practicing Raja Yoga. So he stayed with them for sometimes almost like they are called as Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta. And after staying there, he found that he has excelled them in all that they have taught. And the later on the tradition goes that they became his disciples anyway. And the second, then he left them and then went and met six practitioners of self-mortification who were of the view that the physical body is the citadel of misery. So in order to counter misery, in order to do away with misery, you have to make your body or school your body in such a manner that no misery can touch it. So they were practicing self-mortification, and with them he stayed for 6 years again. Self-mortification by which he was nearly dead. And you know there was the story. He went out from them and he met one girl. Thought that he's a he's a he's a you know he's a he's a like a, he's coming in a form of a pishacha, like a having an astral body. And then he gave a glass of milk. After taking the glass of milk, Buddha got some strength and he left that type of self-mortification. First, the Brahminical system. Second, the extreme form of yoga. By practicing self-mortification, he left and he came to his own way of doing, trying to go in search for enlightenment. Then he took the simple path of meditation to realize the path of awakening. And as you know, in Bodh Gaya, he got enlightenment, Bodhi, under the Bodhi tree, and came to be known as Buddha. So now the process of enlightenment led Buddha to the understanding of this middle way, middle path between, as I told you, the four forms he was reacting to: hedonism, asceticism, absolutism, and skepticism. So after enlightenment, Buddha experimented with middle path. And this middle path, friends, has been taken as the central philosophy of Buddha in Nagarjuna. Maybe like almost 600 years after the Buddha, the Nagarjuna takes this middle path as the chief doctrine, the central doctrine of the Buddha. So when Buddha got enlightenment, I just wanted to give you as I told you, prologism, an introduction, a foreword to a preface to the philosophy of middle path and what happens. How does the middle path work? Where does the middle path work? But see, before I go into doing this, I want to give you a small example. When Jainas talk of non-violence, they say that we should not kill the animals, bacteria, mosquitoes, all germs, and all that. No? Now, what about the plants? What about the seeds? While eating, are they not also destroying the possibility of growth, possibility of a plant giving birth to another plant, a seed giving birth to another seed? So, can you really live with an extreme form of non-violence? Journalists say that we live, but this proposition is questionable because some minuscule amount of violence needs to be practiced in order to sustain the life. Therefore, Buddha always believed. See, middle path is not just a philosophizing as Russell has done, or as the analytical philosophers in the West have done. Not like that. It is a practice-oriented Indian. That is where the Asian philosophy excels from that of Western philosophy. Mostly, not all. You cannot make a blanket statement like this. So, after enlightenment, Buddha goes to a nearby village, and to work with this middle path, he he starts, he tells, I quote, that how this middle path is something, his enlightenment is something which can be experimented, which can be experienced. It is not just a talk, it is not a dogma. See, most of our philosophies, most of our philosophy across the globe stand on certain dogmas, however much you try to do away with dogmas, that there is no presupposition itself is a presupposition, as I always say. So presuppositionless philosophy which was going on in 19th, 20th century Britain can be questioned, that this itself, that there is no presupposition itself is a presupposition. So Buddha is trying to make his thinking popular, pragmatic, possibility of acceptance by reaching out to the people to show what his philosophy is all about. He quotes, and he says, and I quote, he says, Tapacha Chedacha Nikasat Suvarna Viva Panditaha Pariksha Madbacho Grahyo Vichabo Natu Gaurava. He says, oh, see, the whole concept of middle path is based on this particular philosophizing. The middle path, Buddha does not give the middle path all on a sudden to the people, because he knows, like as Nagarjuna tells later on, that if you talk about Sunya, people will get afraid of things. People will get frightened about philosophizing. Therefore, that is not the way to present something so hard, so difficult, so abstruse all of a sudden. Therefore, the when Buddha goes, people knew that he was the son of a king and received him with royal, decorum. But Buddha says, don't try to accept what I say just because a king's son says, a royal person speaks about this, a king's son speaks about this. See, try to see how we do things, how we examine things we do before we get it. He says, see, when a person buys gold, purchases, you go to the gold shop, you don't buy gold just by seeing it. He says that, tapat, by seeing, by putting the gold into fire, by cutting it, by rubbing it against a stone, the wise people know the value, the quality of the gold. In that way, pariksha madvacho grasho, you examine what I say and then accept, and don't accept just because a king's son is presenting, giving, speaking before you. Therefore, don't accept. That is what he says. Pariksha madvacho grahyo vichabo natu gaurava. So, what is happening in middle path is, first, as I told you, a rejection of absolutism and essentialism, the truth. So, and what he says, this essentialism and absolutism cannot, it just romanticizes the existence. It does not address the problem proper. So, truth for Buddhism is relative. There is no single unchanging absolute reality or being as it is in other schools, Brahman and Vedanta, and so many other things in so many other schools. So Buddha did not teach that there is an ultimate, nor did he deny it. Please remember, he did not deny because he wanted to have large audience for his teachings, and he could manage to harness the 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 patronage of the largest, he become largest number of people, he became the light of Asia. So he did not declare the ultimate to be ineffable because of mystical and inherently beyond the scope of thought. Please see, most of our thinking, even in Brahminical systems have mystical dimension, and Buddhism, I must say, like that one of the very few logically presented philosophies which does not accept any type of mysticism. Buddha was averse to accept anything mystical, nor did he embrace agnosticism and say that we just can never know its nature. That is also not what Buddha wanted to say. So what Buddha did, for certain things Buddha was keeping silence. The silence is a very profound topic. The Buddha's silence is something which needs to be like seen deeply than what it has, what has happened, what has been read, what has been understood from silence. So when this concept was discussed in relation to a metaphysical thing, he would declare this concept to be neither wrong, nor right, nor both, nor neither. It just should not be discussed. This is what Buddha did, and this is magnified in Nagarjuna. So, how does Buddha? Before I come to Nagarjuna, I just wanted to give a preliminary. What are the basic premises of Buddhism? That the Buddha is very emphatic about the idea that all empirical existence is impermanent. And the second is all this empirical existence is, because they are impermanent, therefore they are unsatisfactory and suffering. You see, try to view this from the Brahminical tradition of or Upanishadic tradition, where it is said that everything is permanent and there is nothing called unsatisfactory. And suffering and unsatisfactoriness are only the superimpositions, but whereas the self is really bliss, it is ananda. So, however, if you see the Buddhism, the since it is impermanent, therefore it is suffering. The second is derivable from the first. This means two things: that one should not view the world as possessing some kind of permanence, because suffering is subject to arising and suffering is subject to ceasing. This unsatisfactoriness, which is a product of suffering, also arises and ceases, being conditioned by various factors, and hence it is not an essence of something rigid and is itself impermanent. Here is where Buddha is invoking the concept of pratikya samutpana. So the status of the unsatisfactoriness actually led to Buddha's first noble truth. The and the acceptance of the impermanence of the suffering actually made it possible for the understanding of two more truths. Friends, I wanted to tell you, the whole philosophy of the Buddha as has been studied by the scholars across the globe, across the globe, is based on this middle path. Based on this middle path. There are many scholars in Theravada school who say, who contest with the Mahayanic, especially Chandrakirti's presentation of middle path, but by and large, it remains to be the central philosophical point in Buddhism. So, this is the first truth, and acceptance of the impermanence of the suffering actually made it possible for the understanding of two more truths. That is the identification dukkha hetu, samudaya, the possible dukkha nirodha, and nirodha gamini pratipada. So the possibility of its cessation. So now, this gives rise to, as I told you, two things. That is what Nagarjuna elaborately discusses in his Mula Madhyamika Karika. Very abstruse text, needs a lot of reading. In the West they have done a lot of work than we have done in India. One of the major contributors to this philosophy is Professor T.R.B. Murthy, who has really brought out in his own way I must say, to me, it is the best presentation of Madhyamika philosophy, which is contested in the West. That is a different thing. I don't have time to talk about that. But two things come out of this. That is the 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 the, the, the world is anitya. There is fundamental mark of all things existing in this world is anitya. Transitoriness is the fundamental property of all existing things, and for all things come into being, persist for some time, then pass out of being thereafter. Without such impermanence, no change would be possible. See, what we have not seen because of our being inebriated, intoxicated by the Upanishadic thinking is that we have not seen the change, we have seen the permanence, eternality in the things, whereas what we need to see is impermanence. This is what is the major contribution of the Buddha. So no change would be possible, and thus neither would liberation be possible. Anything that comes into existence will also one day go out of existence. You see, even like there will so if the things are as they are, so all these philosophical problems will come. And the second, that anitya is the first one, and second one is the concept of conditionality. A thing is conditioned if it arose depending on a cause. See, what has happened, I am just telling you the background, that contrasting it with the Vedanta, that we take something as eternally present every time. Okay, from out of that things arise. But the concept of the thing is conditioned if it is arose depending on a cause, such as arising of a sprout depends upon the existence of seed, or depends upon the ground of support, like burning fire depends upon the existence of fuel, or depends upon something else for its differentiation or definition. So like, how to understand shortness, how to exist only in relation to longness. You know the Tenali Raman story, he took a stick and king asked how to make a this stick short. He brought another big stick to make this stick short. So it is all relative. So that is the conditional, the impermanence goes along with the concept of conditionality. Is there any question that anybody would like to ask me about this? Excuse me? Am I clear?
Hello? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
You are.
far it is clear, yeah. So, 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 the two things, that is anitya, anatta, but the word that has been used, anatta is used in Pali, but nairatma is used in Sanskrit more. Anyway, I wouldn't have time, otherwise I would have taken a small, you know, I would have given some exposition about. I have spoken on this Nairatma and Anatta. That is not what I would like to do today. So after enlightenment, Buddha, as you know, did not see. Buddha is trying to see how the doors of liberation must reach out to all the people. All the people, not restricted to a particular caste. Caste hegemony he is addressing. The Brahminical hegemony, not Brahmin hegemony, the hegemony of Brahmins. It is not Brahminical, because there are many Brahmins who really took forward the Buddha's teaching. And Nagarjuna, Dharmakirti, Asanga, Bodhidhamma, all were Brahmins, so to say. Like they were Brahmins from south. So after enlightenment, Buddha taught in local language Pali, much of his life, everywhere. He did not take to a language which is understood by a few, or that is one extreme, or the Sanskrit another extreme, middle path Pali. Okay, much of his life while wandering around the Gangetic basin, if you read Pali, I read Pali with Professor Gambhirji. He taught me Pali. I was there in Oxford University. I was attending his classes. So he was so much immersed into the Theravada like school. So Buddha did this, and you can see the middle path everywhere, in and around the lifestyle, thinking, everything that the Buddha did. He saw the both forest life and the life in the cities. There is a possibility, as he came out of his palace, he could have stayed in the forest. Why did he come to the villages? So He did not go to forest life nor went to the cities. Many kings wanted to give him patronage, he did not want. So he shunned both, they are also middle path. So shunned both forest life and life in the cities, preferring to reside and teach in the outskirts of the urban areas. So the teaching of the fourfold path are central to the teaching of Buddhism, as we told. And Nagarjuna, see, I wanted to tell Devashish and many others, those who are here, there is a view in the West that these four Chaturarya Satyas were later innovations. Buddha did not speak about it. But we find a reference to the Chaturarya Satyas in Nagarjuna himself. Nagarjuna talks about the Arya Satyas. So Buddha has talked about Arya Satyas, addressing the problem and giving the introduction to the philosophy that he would like to give to the world. So the teaching of the fourfold, and there has been a lot of discussion about these things, whether Chaturarya Satyas are talked by Buddha, spoken of by the Buddha, and many are of the views that they are all later additions. Anyway, but that is not, I don't believe that to be true, because Nagarjuna himself speaks about the Chaturarya Satyas. So the teaching of the fourfold path are central to the teaching of Buddhism and provide scope for some conceptual framework in the pragmatic Buddhist philosophy. Pragmatism, as I told you, the if it's a that is how it excels as a philosophical school of thinking and action. Okay, so now what is the nearest, like thinking that a man is exposed to as far as his existence is concerned? You know, everybody undergoes, having a body undergoes some type of health problem, ailment. And Buddha is putting all the Chaturarya Satyas are designed as by in keeping with the tradition of Ayurveda. That there will be definitely roga, like dukkha. The body is there, there will be, the head is there, headache will be there. Okay. So Chaturarya Satyas are based on the philosophy of Ayurveda, that there is dukkha, there is roga, roga nidana, roga roga nidana, roga nirodha upaya and roga nirodha upaya pratipada. The bhaishachyam, the four things are required to address the disease. See, Buddha, what he does, he takes the model from the Ayurveda, which was there already in vogue in practice during his time, and designs his philosophy, because as the health is required for everybody, the people also would like to get rid of the dukkha that they are conspicuously experiencing in the world of existence. So the truth of dukkha, truth of origin of dukkha, and truth of cessation of dukkha, and this is what roga, roga nidana, roga nirodha upaya, and roga bhaishajya, the medication. So this is what the designing. This is what is the root of designing the philosophy of Chaturarya Satyas. Okay, so the truth of the origin of dukkha is explained by Buddha. Everybody knows as tanha, craving, we can say desire, and conditioned by avidya. Okay, ignorance. So the truth of the cessation of dukkha is that complete cessation of dukkha is possible. See, this is the great, and Nagarjuna deals with this in an elaborate manner. I will come to that time perhaps. So it is possible to put an end to such desire and thus rid oneself of suffering. When you realize the impermanence of things, one can attain a state called nirvana or freedom, and this realization removes suffering. And Nagarjuna takes this to the logical conclusion by propagating an idea of Sunya. What is Sunya? Is it void, emptiness, or or what it is? I view that Sunya means essencelessness. That is how I translate Sunya, and uh, and uh, that is what is the outcome of his impermanence. So this understanding of Sunya can bring about liberation. So the truth of the path leading to Nibbana is that there is a method available to us by which this cessation of dukkha can be achieved. Third, and this way is the path that enables one to curtail attachment to transitory things and train oneself in proper modes of thought and behavior eventually to achieve liberation. Okay, this is the fourth. The eight limbs, where does the Madhyama Pratipad, middle path culminate? Middle path culminates in acting in a proper way, and Buddha gives the eightfold path as the ways for practicing middle path. Okay, so so I would now like to go to the middle path, a Buddhist exploration. The idea of human will has been always reduced to a completely metaphysical concept, as I have already spoken in Brahminical tradition. Then there was a group of ascetics who openly revolted against the metaphysical and ethical theories and advocated free will, and hence brought in some form of amoralism. Ajibakas did this, Sarvakas did this. There are many schools who must have done, who do not find mention in the history of Indian philosophical thinking. So others questioned the validity of these moralistic and ethical values and brought in some form of materialism, as I just told you. Jainism accepted Atma, but not the Brahman, which is said to have been brought in the caste system and all the Brahminical system. I mean, all evils. Hence, the concept of action became very prominent in Jainism, which Buddha accepts, but not as the Jainas do. So, so what Jainas do is they have brought in a concept of action without the association of caste and all other things, and that is what was preached by by Jainas. So thus Buddha's formulation of the middle path, dependent on the nature of existence as arising conditionally or dependent origination, manages to avoid the trap of both essence and permanence. Okay, so the essence and permanence. Essence, as we have seen, the metaphysical concept of self, and permanence of eternality of the consciousness, as it is the case with the Brahminical systems. So, in the quest of Nibbana, as we see, now I bring Nagarjuna. The text, is very, very, though lucid, looks perturbing when you go into the meaning of the stanzas. Therefore, I have tried to summarize this. So, in quest of Nirvana, there are two paths. One is Pravritti and Nivritti, indulgence and renunciation. Buddha studied and experienced both these paths and found that both of them are unsatisfactory, and he preferred the middle path. Now, as I have told you already, Sasvatavada, eternalism, and Uchchadavada, annihilationalism of the Charvakas, and two other paths also I have already told. So, middle path consists in becoming free of desires so that they are subdued. The midway between two paths is therefore known as Madhyama Marga. It is further explained in terms of the path of 8 virtues. The path of 8 virtues can be divided into three, Triratna, Sila, Prajna, and Samadhi. Okay, so after the passing of the Buddha, you know what happened? Just taking you to bring the history from Buddha to Nagarjuna. So after the passing away of the Buddha, it was two disciples who jotted down the teachings of, see, what the Buddha taught is still something which is difficult to decipher, because as goes the tradition, we have Pali texts first, okay, that is believed to have been brought to have come down from the time of Buddha, and so it was then again Nagarjuna comes with not a Pali text, he writes in Sanskritization, Brahminization of the tradition. Professor David Kalupahana, one of the greatest thinkers of Theravada Buddhism, says more than Nagarjuna, it is because of the Chandrakirti's interpretation of Nagarjuna that minimized the distance between Brahminism and Buddhism, by which the Buddhism vanished from the place of its origin. Buddhism was accommodated. Buddhism lapsed back into Brahminism, the Vedantic thinking, whatever it is. So, to the Buddha came in a oral tradition, taught everywhere by oral mode. To his, after the passing away of the Buddha, the master, two of his close disciples who are traveling along with him, not roaming. That is not a right word to speak when we are talking about Buddha. So, who are traveling along with Buddha, one is Upali, another is Ananda. Upali seems to have been a barber, Ananda seems to have been a Brahmin. So they all were the close disciples of Buddha. See the charisma of the Buddha, who could bring like a real castelessness in the thinkers of that time, of his time and the time after him. So after the passing, so Upali and they only in the maybe a few years after the Buddha's death, felt the need of writing down the teachings of the master, and they wrote. So what all the literature that we have is largely that those material, those texts which has come down from the Upali and Ananda. And when it was given, it became open to the philosophical interpretations. The implication of the middle path, which Nagarjuna says is the central to the Buddhist thinking, became varied, different, and that formed different schools of thought based on different interpretation. And in the 2nd century CE, the Buddhist scholar Nagarjuna presented a very refined interpretation of the middle way, and his writings found the basis of the Madhyamika school. Madhyamika school has got the nomenclature of the school from this particular idea of middle path that became highly influenced in the Mahayana tradition of the world, like many places like China, Tibet, all Eastern Asian countries. So there are large interactions between Upanishadic and Buddhist schools. Sorry. This is a okay. The how I have written that this is what has happened later on. So how the school. See, what I wanted to tell here is in that particular slide is to say that how the Nagarjuna's, neither Buddha's thinking nor Nagarjuna's thinking got vanished, as we say. It was accommodated. We can see that in Gaudapada's thinking, and also in the Shankara's thinking. I'll come to towards the end about how the tradition of Vedanta, the later Vedanta, if you say, or earlier, whatever word you may use, Shankara's Vedanta is not able to get out of the dialectics that Nagarjuna has brought in. He does not like here is where it's a very subtle plagiarism is being seen. Anyway, that is a different thing that I'll come to later. So, as I said, middle way, as I told, two things: nihilism. Middle way is also used to refer to the view that rejects extreme view of eternalism and nihilism. The the so two aspects of Buddha's teaching from this middle path can be taken into account. One is philosophical middle path, another is practical middle path. Okay, and these two are mutually dependent ones, and they are clearly enunciated in two discourses that the Buddha has given. So the Buddha, as I told you, he wanted to address the suffering of the people. So this practical middle path at any point of time, see, Buddha very clearly says, I have no philosophy. It is the way of life. Philosophy and way of life are very different. Buddha has told, but a philosophical grounding was given by Nagarjuna. That is a different discourse. I don't want to get into that, but in the first discourse called Dharmachakra Pavartana Sutra, Buddha talks about this practical aspect, practical dimension of the middle path. And in the second one, the Kachayana Gutta Sutta, he talks about the philosophical middle path. So this Kachayana Gutta Sutta, which 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 Nagarjuna quotes many times, he says this deals with the philosophical middle path, which is placed against the backdrop of two absolutistic theories, that is permanent existence and nihilistic non-existence. Okay, so permanent existence propounded by the early Upanishads and nihilistic non-existence suggested by the Madhyamikas, materialists, and Buddha Nagarjuna talks about it mainly dealing with Kachayana Gutta Sutta. So, so Nagarjuna's great contribution to Buddhist thought was that he rejected the existence of any type of permanently indivisible objects. Please listen to. I am going to a little deeper level of Nagarjuna's thinking. I will come to my conclusion very shortly. How much time I have?
Hello. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can speak about 10 minutes.
Okay, give me 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So the verse thank you. So he asserted that all phenomena are empty. Please remember, please see, sorry, not please remember. Please try to understand what is this empty. Empty, see, when we talk about Anirvachaniya or Anirvachya, Nagarjuna talks about these things. A lot of discussion has gone into the philosophy of Professor Murthy talks about that, this also in a very, very elaborate way. So he says that all phenomena are empty of inherent existence. So Nagarjuna, as I told you, best is thinking on the Kachayana Gutta Sutra, and I want to quote a passage from Kachayana Gutta Sutra, translating. The translation would be like this: everything exists is one extreme. Everything does not exist is another extreme. And according to Nagarjuna, Tathagata wants to teach. See, not according to Nagarjuna, Buddha. According to Buddha, Nagarjuna quotes this very, Nagarjuna takes this and tries to analyze this in his own way, and he says Tathagata teaches the dharma via the middle path. So it is going in between the two extremes that we can find the real dimension of existence. So Nagarjuna clarified the above statement to a more subtle degree than the previous Buddhist philosophers. He used the traditional concept of middle way in a sophisticated manner. So Sorry, one minute. So, Nagarjuna, so he deals with this in a very sophisticated manner, and this you can see in the first passage that I have quoted Nagarjuna. That is one of the major verses, very abstruse. The language is easy, but meaning is very difficult to understand. I will go to that passage for a minute. Yah praditya samutpadaha शून्यताम तम प्रचक्षमहे सा विज्ञाप्तिर उपादाय प्रतिपत् सैव मध्यमा. And this, he says, he takes the pratitya samutpada, whatever it is, the dependent origination, that causality. The causality is not a permanent causality. The causality is a causality at a particular time. Kshanikavada comes out of it. Sunyatam tam prachakmahe. The extreme, the logical conclusion of this Kshanikavada will be Sunyavada, and we will say that Pratitya, the Buddha says, he who knows Pratitya Samutpada knows Dhamma. Nagarjuna says that Pratitya Samutpada is Dhamma, and that is Sunyata. And by knowing that, by having that itself should be understood as the middle path. Sa prajnapti upadaya pratipad saiva madhyama, and that is the madhyama pratipad. That is neither that only does away with the extreme forms of philosophization, acceptance of the reality, acceptance of the ontological status of the phenomena. So that therefore Nagarjuna goes to say that there is no difference between the world and the Sunya. The world and Nirbana. The world is Nirbana and Nirbana is Sunya. Sunya is a very enigmatic, as I told you, concept which attracted a lot of criticism later on. But one person who has been largely influenced by this concept of Sunyata is Shankara. And before him, I wanted to talk a little about Godapada, and I don't have much time. I have taken a slide, but I am skipping that. So what he does, what Shankara does, Shankara could not get out of this idea of Sunyata. And so he in his enthusiasm to address the philosophy from the Upanishadic standpoint, Vedic standpoint, in order to ascertain the primacy of the Shruti, which was the first agenda, the first objective of Shankara. What Shankara does, Shankara says, Shankara takes this, but finds it not difficult, nay, impossible to criticize Buddhism in the 35th Sutra of Brahma Sutra, while writing the commentary of Vipratishedat Asamanjasam Sutra. So in this sutra, while writing a commentary on this sutra, Shankara says that he has refuted three schools. When he comes to Madhyamika school, he says, Natra kinchit upapattim pasyamaha. We don't find any logic in the views of Buddha. Like the Buddhist philosophy, we don't find any logic. Bahyarthavada, Vijnanavada, Sunyavada, Tritayam, Itaretara viruddham vadata sugatena, Spastikrutam Atmanaha Asambadha Pralapitvam, Pradvesoba Prajasu, Ataha, Sarvatha Anadaraniyaha Ayam Saugata Samayaha, Sreyaskamihi. He says that the Buddha must have been a person who did not have direction as far as doing philosophy. He is talking three things at a time: Bahyarthavada, Vijnanavada, and Sunyavada. See, Shankara, why I am bringing this is to tell you, Shankara takes the Sunyavada and works out his philosophy as Brahmavada, which is being deciphered, which is being discovered by later thinkers and those who say, Yat Sunyavadinam Sunyam Tadeva Brahma Mayinam. That which is Sunya for the Sunyavadins, that has become Brahma for the Vedantis. So, Nagarjuna is still preeminently, sufficiently, profoundly alive in the later literature that we have, and Madhyama Pratipad gives the foundation to the philosophizing in every level. See, as you see, man at every stage of life becomes an extreme. I must say, Gandhi was a extreme. Gandhi was practicing extreme non-violence. Gandhi was like Jainas. Jainas are practicing extreme non-violence. Like there are extreme, like it is a violent. It is becoming violently non-violent. It is a Gandhi. Sometimes you can say it is violently non-violent. So that type of thing. It addresses many problems. It addresses economic problem, scientific problem, political problem. If you really take, it gives a basis. It gives a foundation for living meaningfully and profoundly in a society envisaging harmony and peace. Thank you, Devasis, for this opportunity. I invite questions if there are any, philosophical and otherwise, whatever questions you have.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your excellent deliberation on the philosophy of middle way from Nagarjuna's perspective. So it was very nice and enlightening one. So there are a few questions. Malay Kumar Jha, sir, is it audible?
I'm audible. Yeah, sorry. I'm able to listen to you. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Malay Kumar Jha wants to know नागार्जुन का मध्यम मार्ग एवं जैन अनेकांतवाद सिद्धांत क्या सामाजिक, दार्शनिक या साधना परक उद्देश्य पूर्ति में समानता रखते हैं?
और एक बार पढ़ो।
नागार्जुन का मध्यम मार्ग एवं जैन अनेकांतवाद सिद्धांत क्या सामाजिक, दार्शनिक या साधना परक उद्देश्य पूर्ति में समानता रखते हैं?
Yeah, shall I answer in English? I think
Yes, sir.
is able to see. This is a very good question because Anekant is a concept which can also accommodate Madhyama, isn't it? Anekant is a open-ended dimension of the reality, isn't it? Varied dimension of the reality. So even in the commentatorial tradition and expository tradition of Madhyamika school, you find discussion about Anekanta, because this is something which Anekanta is a one of the greatest contribution of the Jainas, that we this addresses, this hammers, this repudiates the idea of absolute dimension of anything, Anekanta. And it, as I told you, it has some similarity, not all similarity, with the Buddhist concept of Sunya, Madhyama Pratipad, because Madhyama can be a very vital dimension of Anekanta, and therefore, as I told you, the Madhyama, taking Madhyama and Anekanta both into consideration, it can have implications for all that Malay Kumar is asking. It can have economic implications, it can be used for everything, and because of not perceiving the Anekanta and Madhyama, we jump into the extremism from out of which you are not able to come,
and we become some sort of extremists in whatever we think and whatever we do.
Thank you very much, sir. So, Smrutirekha Naik has some question. Hello, Smrutirekha Naik. If you are listening, you can unmute yourself and can ask your question. Hello. She wants to know actually when and why Buddha was asked what becomes of the Tathagata after Nirvana is attained.
Okay, very good. Okay, this is not pertaining to this, but I would like to, I always, Mahaparinirvana Sutta and all that, it talks about all these things in Pali. We have a lot of discussion about this. Like, Ananda on the deathbed of the Buddha goes to Buddha Master and asks Buddha, what happens when you are no more? You know, Buddha tells that when I am no more, my Sangha will take care of the future of my teaching. The Dhamma, therefore, the Ratna, that, Dhamma, Sangha, the popular Buddhism grew out of this particular phenomena of the final discourse of the Buddha to Ananda, that after my passing away, this will be perpetuated through the Sangha, through the Dhamma, and the teachings that stands as Buddha. So that is what has happened, but one thing, the history is not very clear about whether the Buddhism was in the same form as it was during the life of the Buddha, because it was Ashoka who took enormous efforts to make Buddhism a religion, not a religion. You cannot say Buddhism as a religion, Buddhism is Buddhism a religion? Another question altogether. Because what all the basic features, salient, points for a religion, Buddhism does not have many of those things. Buddhism does not grow out of a text. Buddhism is more based on rationalistic thinking, the thinking in a very different thinking, pragmatic possibility without any dogma. Buddha did not believe in any dogma, no book, no God. So Buddha therefore told Ananda that these three things will take care of my teaching, and that is what has happened in later periods, most probably after Ashoka only, because Ashoka left no stone uncornered to make Buddhism reach out to the large number of people in this subcontinent and other places in the world. This is a very good question, but I like it needs a little time. But this is Mahaparinirvana Sutta. There are a few suttas and a lot of discussion. This goes in the name of popular Buddhism. How the Buddhism is alive in the Buddhist country. Every Buddhist gets up and says Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami. But most of them do not understand what these three things are. And as I told you, Kalupahana very clearly says, Kalupahana is a scholar from Sri Lanka, taught in Hawaii East-West Center, and wrote brilliant books. Anybody wants to read Buddhism from the Pali sources must read Kalupahana. And he says how the popular Buddhism is alive in these three modes. Everybody gets up in the morning, says three: Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, without much understanding what these three things are. But there are people those who understand also.
Again,
Hello.
hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
Srinivas Krishnamurti ji, if you want to ask something, you can ask.
Srinivasan, please.
Professor Godabarisha Mishra ji, namaste.
Namaste.
And Srinivasan, Madari Kamaraj University.
I know, I see your face very clear.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, I have two clarifications. One is that you spoke of Buddha, that he gave up, Raja Yoga and self-mortification because he was very nearly dead. That means he has left an iota of desire to live.
No,
Is it a
no,
fact?
no, no, no. See, good question. See, what has happened is those renunciates, they were the practitioners of some type of a yoga, not Raja Yoga. Because Raja Yoga, the Shalara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputra were different. They were the practitioners of Brahminical way of doing Raja Yoga. But those six renunciates, they had the view that the body is the citadel of suffering. Therefore, tuning the body through the yogic practices without taking food. See, you know, like live like a snake, live like who takes only air to live like something who does not do certain, the extreme form of mortification. They were practicing, thinking that that alone can give them, get them rid of suffering. And Buddha did believe this in the beginning and went through that particular type of yogic practice, six of them, you know, and at last found that if the same is practiced longer, he will not be there anymore. And that type of a thing he wanted to get rid of. And the story goes that there was a girl, Sujata, who thought he went, was going, he was offering some milk, and he just took the milk, and that girl gave him the milk thinking that he is a bhuta, he's a ghost. So that type of a thing. So Buddha was just experimenting the experimental years of 12 years of Buddha. Then he went to self, way, finding out his own way of meditation and enlightenment, and got the enlightenment. So what it tells is, you can also school yourself and find out the new ways of knowing things. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Next question, Dr. Gautam Kalhatra wants to ask something. Hello, Dr. Gautam Kalhatra. Are
Gautam.
you?
Yes, hello sir, Namaskar sir. How are you?
Namaste Gautam. Very
How are
good to
you,
see
sir?
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same here, sir. Thank you.
Tell me.
Yeah, sir. Actually, I have question upon Nagarjuna's understanding of compassion. Yeah,
Okay.
sir. Please enlighten us about compassion of Nagarjuna, sir.
Mhm. Okay.
Thank you.
These two things, Mahaprajna and Mahakaruna. Mahaprajna and Mahakaruna, the two things, Nagarjuna brings out in a very elaborate manner. Like, why does Buddha do all these things? And what does Buddha say? You know, you can see the genesis of the problem that Buddha is seized with, and that continues till the end. See, this particular problem, it is a very good question, Gautam. It's like many people
Thank you,
get
sir.
into this type of problem, that how do I really address the problem of my existence? Some can think that today I get this and tomorrow I'll get this. However much you get, whatever you want, still there is some lacking, and sometimes you get everything and then leave everything and then try to then you think that there will be happiness. Now, what is happening here is Nagarjuna is analyzing Buddha. What is the real Buddha? Buddha symbolizes two things. Buddha has imparted, Buddha stands for Mahaprajna. What is Mahaprajna? Sunyata. Buddha, see, there is a lot of discussion in Nagarjuna's Mula Madhyamaka Karika. He says, all others have spoken about Buddha, whatever he says, like Mahayana, Hinayana, Vajrayana. All the Vajrayana was not there, during that time. So other Yanas, there are so many Yanas. I don't want to list out that Jana, but then why, what is so great about my thinking? He says, whatever all these people are telling in the name of Vijnana or Sarva Astitvavada and all, they are only touching one aspect of Buddha, but not the total aspect. It is only the Sunyavada which addresses the totality of uh, thinking of the Buddha, and that is that is um, that is what is I am presenting. That is my, what is that? Mahapragya, pragya. And why does pragya come? See, when a person gets pragya, there is every possibility of, see, if you go through the sunya, you may lose your mind thinking that there is nobody who is bound. Because samsara, see, ultimately what is happening? Samsara is not different from nirvana, no? There is nobody who is bound. Are you getting my point? So where is
Yes, sir.
the, how does what is the necessity of all these things? Buddha is speaking for whom? There comes Mahakarna. So Shankara takes this idea also, Gautam.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Paramakarunitena,
sir. Yes, sir.
like a great, out of sheer compassion for the mankind, he borrows this from the master. Okay, he says Paramakarunikena. Well, master means not his master. He criticizes everybody. He does not take the name of Nagarjuna. He knew Nagarjuna. He knew everybody. Dharmakirti also is quoted, but he says they are all doing prattling. They are talking like mad people. But the Karuna. So the Karuna is the aspect which makes, which bridges the gap between the world liberated and world bound. Okay, this is also the offshoot of Madhyama Pratipada. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So there are a lot of questions there. So we'll try to answer them all, but let's see whether time is allowing us or not. So Anish Chakravarti wants to know, can we say Sunyata epistemologically is a middle position between absolutism and skepticism?
Sir, may I please ask the
Yes,
question, if you allow me?
yes, Anish.
Yeah, please.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Mishra, for a very, very interesting and very informative lecture on Nagarjuna. Sir, my question is that can we say that the concept of Shunyata epistemologically, when we see it in terms of knowledge, is a middle position between absolutism, where we hold some reality to be absolute and permanent and knowable, on one hand, and skepticism, which rejects or claims all knowledge to be false or impossible? Uh, can we do that? Because, or is it that Shunyata is a concept which is avoiding these kinds of epistemic positions,
Like
or
both,
is it
both are
compromise?
possible. Both are possible. It is a middle path between absolutism and agnosticism, or like a Uchedavada, you can say. And in doing Sunyavada, you can do away with both, and both are same actually. There is another way of looking at it. You can also say, which is what has happened later on, is the Sunyavada is another form of, you know, the extreme view. It is another extreme view. It is in doing middle path, you are proposing a extreme path. That is also can be the third view. But Nagarjuna, this is what has happened in the commentators of Nagarjuna. The Kalupahana is of the few. Kalupahana is one of the very, like, you cannot accept all his views as far as Nagarjuna is concerned, but
Yes, sir.
what he says also cannot be just rejected, erased out. Like, you cannot do that. He says that Nagarjuna's view and the view in the post Nagarjuna period were totally different, and this post Nagarjuna thinkers like Chandrakirti and others have
Yes,
brought
sir.
this tradition very close to the Brahminical Upanishadic Vedantic tradition, which is why the Buddhism was Buddhism got merged, submerged, and vanished into these things. So both the views what you are telling is correct. It is a view madhyama and it is a view avoiding both. And anytime you say madhyama is also, it involves an amount of avoidance. Please see, some avoidance means not total avoidance philosophically, you cannot do that. And Nagarjuna believes in that. Buddha believes in that.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
am I making myself clear, Anish?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're clear, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And
Yeah,
then thank you, Dr. Sarangi. Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So there is a question. This will be the last question. This is from Rajasri Vasudevan from Chennai. She wants to know.
But where are you, Rajashree? You are not
uh,
visible. Okay.
Yes, I'm
Oh,
fine,
Raj
sir. I'm
Vas.
fine.
Okay,
Thank
okay,
you. Yes.
okay.
Yes, sir.
you can ask your question, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Sir, the question is the deification of Buddha defeating the very purpose of Buddha's opposition to dogma and worship? So, can we say that the current Buddhists are actually going against the very word of Buddha?
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you, but this is what has happened because of the Mahayana. It is a Mahayana influence. This is the post Nagarjuna dimension. This is a development which has happened in post Nagarjuna period, like acceptance of Buddha as a perpetual entity, as a perpetual being, which was not there in Theravada school. But deification has happened. Many you know about that. Many people were of the view that that because Buddha was so good looking, the people could not resist the temptation of having his idol at home. But this is a post Nagarjuna syndrome in Buddhism. But before that also it was happening. The history is very opaque, not very clear. So we cannot know. But Buddha was never accepted as a god as it has happened in other schools. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. So now I would like to thank our
Rajashree, did you ask me that question or anything else you asked? I didn't get your question.
No, sir, that question only.
Okay.
That is the question.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thanks to all the audiences who have joined virtual academic platform, and thanks to those who have raised their question, and thanks to all my students and my colleagues who have joined here. Thank you very much, Professor Godabarisha Mishra sir, for your enlightening lecture and to be with us for today's session. Thank you very much, sir. So many people are asking about feedback link. So we'll provide feedback link on 22nd. That will be our last lecture on our series. So tomorrow also we have a lecture program on Vigyamti Matra. The link will be the same. So today I would like to end here and thank you all. Thank you all for your discussion and to have your patience to listen to our lecture. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks you all. Sabba papasya akaranam kusalasya upasampada sachitta pariyodapanam etat buddhanusasanam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namaskar.
Namaskar.